Hi, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
How you doing, Muffin?
Good. How are you? I'm you, you heard my little rant right before we got on, and I'm like, I'm good.
You were this close to like shaking computer, like it was like a baby that wouldn't shut up. Like it was like, ah.
Yeah, I think it all boils down to having a bad hair day. I think everything would be fine if my hair looked good, but because I don't feel like it looks good, I think everything else is just the worst.
I think it looks fine, but I also understand when you don't like your hair and what that does. Because there's been times where you're like, your hair looks amazing. And I was like, you don't know what I've been through.
I'm like, whoa.
I've been fighting my curls for hours.
That Americans in London group that I'm in on WhatsApp, somebody was like, hey, other curly girls, what have you liked for products? I was like, oh, shit. You don't even know.
Yeah.
2 years of research. Not just on the internet. But before that this is decades.
Yeah. Well, my friend Rachel, I've been kind of like MIA for the last couple of days because I've been painting my place and my brother's staying with me and we're just doing all this like apartment stuff that I haven't been able to do because I've been traveling. And she has beautiful blonde curly hair, which I don't know if this is weird. I said it to her. I was like, you don't see a lot of blonde women with curly hair.
I love people with blonde curly hair. I mean, I don't know about their personalities. I just love their hair.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And but I've always like, and she's just a beautiful, wonderful person. But literally we were talking about paint and like how things going. And then she just stopped and she goes, can I know your curly process? And I was like, we've been friends for 10 years. I was like, I've been waiting for you to ask me this question. Like literally like somebody being like, you're beautiful. How did you get that way? Oh, I would love to tell you. But then we exchanged and then she told me her process and I was like, bitch, you're crazy. like she was telling me everything she does. And it was just like, I was like, we both were like, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. But I love knowing what you do.
Do you know how many people have said I follow the curly girl method to me? And what I think is because there's only one official method for curly haired people and so many people wondering how to deal with their hair that you and I should come up with the like Two Non-Doctors curly method and then just have our own method, because then people are going to be like, fuck that method. This is the new method. This is the cool method, you know?
I will say this because I do most of the curly hair method because I was trying to just get my curls to be healthier. But what is really funny about that is I remember before I did that, my older sister who's always straightened her hair was like, hey, I'm trying to go more natural. What do you do? And it was on a group chat with me, my little sister, and my mom. And I went step by step what I do. And she went, I have 3 kids. That's insane. I'm not doing that. And I was like, that's fine. That's a valid point. It doesn't, when you break it all down, it sounds like a lot, but it really wasn't. I also had really long hair when I was doing this, and it just takes more upkeep and more work or whatever. I'm starting to be over my short hair just because like when it's dirty like this, there's not as many options of how to spruce it up, but it is easier. But I now air dry my hair, and I haven't, the same way that I lived right next to the subway. This was like 7 years ago. And then I moved somewhere where it was a 15-minute walk from the subway. And I was just 15 minutes late for like 2 years. Like I could not adjust to the fact that I didn't live outside the subway. And it took me and that's how I feel with air drying my hair, is that I'm like, oh, I'll shower an hour and a half before I leave and it'll be fine. But I don't factor in the air dry. So then I'm like, fuck, my hair is like still sopping wet. And like I look like I just got out of the shower, even though it's been an hour, because it takes almost 3 hours for my hair to dry. There's
mine's a day-long thing. When I have an audition in the morning, I'm like, fuck,
6 a.m.
like my slept-in hair isn't good.
Yeah,
and then it's not going to be dry by then, and I can't dry it. So it's just like, what's the worst? What's the least worst outcome? And this is why I'm not on any sitcoms, everybody. It's my hair.
Because if you think about it, like the call time, like think about you like have something in the call time. Because I did like a small little part in a movie, and for some reason my call time was like literally before the crew in some cases. Like I was looking at the breakdown sheet and I was like, why is it me and the PA guy? Like, why the fuck am I here at 6 a.m. in Queens? This is insane. I literally was looking at it. I was like, dude, why am I here so early? I have the smallest part in this movie.
Yeah.
But that's almost how I feel that like we'd be on a sitcom and it would be like Maria Shahada and Liz Mealy at 6 a.m. and everybody else comes in at noon and it's just hair and makeup.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the hair and makeup girls. Like, you were my fucking hell.
I could have
Both of
slept
you.
in. This is why curly hair people aren't on TV. Announcements?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you to all our Patreons, everybody that gives us money. We appreciate you. You are foundational to our success and livelihood. I don't know why I turned into motivational.
I know you're being facetious, but we mean it. We're sincere.
No, we genuinely appreciate it. If you don't know, you can get weekly bonus episodes. You can get monthly bonus episodes. You can be a Google guest. You can control our Googles. You can get stickers. You can get a signed copy of my book. You can get extra stand-up from us. There's so many fun options. And yeah, become a Patreon. And thank you to everybody that is.
Follow us on the socials. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 2 Non-Doctors. It's the number 2 full word doctors. Nailed it in one go. It only took me 2 years. 2 years. And you can follow us on Instagram at 2 Non-DRS. And if you have time and you're feeling nice, please leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts because it helps us out a lot. It helps us get seen. We feel great. We share it on our socials. It makes us really happy. Thanks to everybody who's left really nice comments and ratings so far.
Yeah. And then touring stuff. I am going to be in Seattle right after Thanksgiving, November 26th, 27th, I believe. And then 2 Non-Doctors is we're doing stand-up together and a live taping in Brooklyn at Union Hall, December 29th, I believe at 7 or 7:30. I have to look. And then also I just booked a festival in the Netherlands. So
shit.
all our European fans, I am slowly going to put together a European tour. So right now I just have the Netherlands in Utrecht, I believe. But I'm going to start trying to rebook the stuff I canceled in 2020, as well as add stuff. And hopefully me and Maria are going to do a bunch of stuff together. So hang on, Europe. I'm working on it.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Oxford.
Oxford, come see Maria.
Or don't.
Fan mail?
Yeah. It's not about dicks, is it?
No,
Sorry.
it's not. I made sure. God, we have so many dick emails. Lovely emails about dicks. This comes from Michael on YouTube, and this is a response to you talking about trying to lose weight, Maria, your Google. So he goes, avoiding refined sugars and starches, which your body turns into sugar, e.g. rice, bread, pasta, pizza, etc., can be the start of reprogramming your blood sugar level. Sugar level in your body tells your body how much fat it needs to store. So if you don't change what you eat, your body composition will stay the same. So saying that it's only a little bit of sugar or bread is like saying it's just a little bit of crack. You're just killing yourself and staying stuck in the sugar trap. Sugar is our drug of choice, so the idea of removing it is very painful. But when you get free, you will realize how much it was hurting you and how much you don't need it. It's so interesting to me because I know all that. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that Michael said that I was like, he's wrong or you're wrong. I was like, yeah, I know all that. As somebody that went off sugar for 2 years, I completely agree that I felt so much better and it's so much better for your body. I will say this though, I don't think I lost any weight when I went off sugar. And I think I'm a sugar addict. I don't think I lost any weight. In some ways, I think my body, like, and maybe it's because I really needed to like detox, and 2 years of being off sugar wasn't enough, but I had no cravings and I definitely didn't need it. And my body functioned better, and things like my eczema and all this other stuff really did go away. I was like super strict paleo for I think almost 3.5 years, but I went completely off sugar for almost 2 years with only just having a little bit of fruit and like date sugar or whatever. But it was like all unprocessed sugar. But he's right. It's like absolutely a drug in the US, and it absolutely is in everything. And it absolutely is the reason that most Americans at the very least have all the health problems. And we have a running joke where every time I see you, I'm like, I'm so close to getting off gluten. Like I'm this close to going gluten free again. And I said that in 2019, 2020, whenever. I've been saying it for years since I went back on gluten, and I don't even eat it as much as I did. But like, I do want to go sugar free, and I started. It lasted all of 2 weeks. My non-sugary.
That's a long time. 2 weeks is
What?
really good. Like, how strict were you? Okay, well, there's a couple of things I want to say first.
Yeah,
We should get off sugar together. Okay.
I would do that.
I was watching the Great British Bake Off with my flatmate, and then she had mince pies. Because it's really hard to watch that show without eating some cake.
Okay.
And I had already decided like to eat less sugar. And then she was like, "You can have one," and I was like, "Oh, I'm all right, thank you." And she's like, "Oh," like she was like really impressed with me. But the truth is mince pies are like garbage calories. Like
Yeah.
if I'm gonna eat sugar, I'm gonna eat like good like cake, brownies, cookies, which I have been making. What happens is it's like before my period, and I'm like, "What's a pan of brownies?" And then and then
And that's
cookies,
for
and I
your
didn't
mental
perfect
health,
those cookies. I didn't perfect the cookies, so you got to perfect the cookies. Then you
of
perfect them, and
course.
that's bad too.
Yeah, because then you make the
Um,
best cookies, and why would you deny yourself or the world of your cookies?
and suddenly I'm as wide as I am tall, and I'm like, well, like, I've been working out. What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't understand this diet culture. It doesn't work for me. And you're like, pan of brownies.
But I mean, oh my god, I was in Nottingham. I went to this place called Donuts, which is it was just a donut place. So good. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, I saw the picture.
Holy shit. And like it was just like I was like, well, these are a bit much, right? And then I took a bite and I was like, and then I just couldn't stop. And I didn't used to have like a sugar, like a sweet tooth, but since I haven't been drinking, I think it's just replaced that. Now, let's get back to what I wanted to ask you. How strict are you when you cut out sugar? Are you looking at
So
ingredients for hidden sugar? Like what
so
do you
so
honey?
so that's a double question. When I didn't go 2 weeks without sugar, I went 2 weeks without my sugary beverage. So my thing was,
Oh,
if I
you cut out
just
your
didn't
morning
start,
soda.
kind of. Although the sugar I put in my tea, it doesn't even compare to soda. It just was more, it was something that I added into my life during the pandemic because things were sad, and it was what got me up in the morning. And now I'm trying to break the habit. So I was just having regular green tea with nothing in it, and that was fine. But like, I'm not excited to get out of bed for it. So I did that for 2 weeks, but then I got stressed because I had to get up early to like paint my apartment and doing all this stuff. I had coffee for the first time. Like, I'm allergic to coffee.
When have you been allergic to coffee?
I'm pretty much allergic to all beans. Like, beans really mess me up and
Oh,
like fuck my stomach up. So I cut out beans when I cut out yeast, but I was still drinking coffee, and then noticing that just having coffee would really mess me up. Like my skin would get messed up, my stomach would get messed up. So I cut off coffee. I have coffee like 3 times a year, and it's like when I'm about to crash my car. That's why I'll have a chai latte or something else with caffeine in it. But like, if I think like, my whole thing is, if I think I'm gonna die, I will eat whatever I need to eat, drink whatever I have to eat. But my brother was here. We're going to Dunkin' Donuts. I'm like eating donuts, which I shouldn't be eating, and drinking coffee. And like, I only did coffee for one day. I did donuts for 2 days. So just starting my day with sugar is just bad news bears in general. So I basically was like, I'm going to stop. Like, that's how I was going to get into this. I'm going to stop starting my day with sugar, which was just this beverage. And that worked for about 2 weeks until painting happened. So I'm hopefully starting tomorrow going to go back to that. But my goal is start with no sugar in the morning, and then get rid of after Halloween, because I'm a child. I will start with no processed sugar, which would be like candy and blah blah blah. And then eventually, like for my body specifically, I need to go off all sugar, including fruit, because I need like sugar, sugar, sugar to my body. And so I literally went without fruit, I think, for 6 months. Besides, what Michael was saying, like the bread and the pot, like all that stuff. So, but when I went sugar free, it was no sugar whatsoever at all in anything, and reading labels, nothing. And I was eating no processed food, but also I couldn't have fruit sugar. And then after 6 months, I started making like my own like cookies with, grinding up dates and making date sugar, or like coconut sugar. Like there's all this like paleo stuff. And then I kind of went from going into the candida diet into the paleo diet, which was more manageable. And but I still didn't eat any like processed stuff. And then of course, I think it was like 5 years ago, I was like dating my now ex, and I was like, he was like, you want chocolate? And I was like, I want chocolate. I remember it was maybe like 3 months into us dating. I was having like a bad day and he had chocolate in his fridge. I was like, can I have this? And I was sitting on the couch eating chocolate. He's like, I've never seen you eat chocolate. And it blew my mind that I could be with somebody that didn't know I was a sugar addict. And then, and then clearly within a year, I was just like, I'm sad. Let's get ice cream. It's hard, but this is the thing. The first 2 weeks is hard and you have headaches and you feel like shit. But once it was out of my body, I did not crave sugar. And that's
okay.
Going through that process made me realize that like, it's just hard for a little bit. And then there's like a little bit of the social pressure. And my mom would always make me feel bad. She's like, you're not going to have cake on your birthday.
Oh, my
like,
mom's the same. Oh my God. She's like, what are you doing to me? Like,
yeah, no, it would be like if I told my mom I wasn't coming home for Christmas and she's like, are you mad at me? Like,
yeah, right.
My mom did when I was like super sugar free. She made me this like fruit platter cake thing that was really sweet of her. But like, and I also just like don't like being a fuss in general. But I feel like being single right now and touring is starting to get a little bit make sense a little bit. I just need to do it because I've done it before. I've done it a couple of times, and it really is just the beginning. It's same with exercise, same with any new habit. It's really just the first 2 weeks.
I was just going to ask, like, do you think that all habits are hard? Like all habits take 2 weeks to break, or does it depend? Like, is it a heroin addiction? Can you kick that in 2 weeks? You're just 2 weeks away from kicking it.
I did read, I think it's The Power of Habits. It was a pretty big book.
I remember that. I read it. I didn't like it.
Yeah, like 10 years ago or whatever. It was good and it made me understand a lot. But basically, they do say anything you do for 6 weeks usually sticks. But the same way that like it takes you, how it takes you like a year to build a muscle and 2 weeks to lose it?
Yeah.
I feel like you could build a habit and then all it takes is 2 weeks of not doing it and it goes away too. So it's just like, I don't fully know. But I will say this, when it's a physical addiction, maybe not heroin, but when it's a physical addiction, I think it needs to get out of your body, and that getting out of your body can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months. The same with, we've talked about like allergies and stuff. Like you can't really tell if your body's healing or if you're allergic to something before the first 3 months.
Yeah. Cause I think nicotine is like 3 days it's out of your system, but like 2 weeks to break the habit.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. And that habit book talked about replacing the habit. So the other thing is I can't just get rid of my sugary tea. I have to replace it. So that's why I have the green tea. You know what I mean? So I still make a cup of tea every morning. It's just a better tea.
Otherwise you're just sitting with your thoughts.
Oh, that's horrible. In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Googles?
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mentioned briefly, I've been painting. So my brother came, my friend Rachel helped. This wall's all painted. You can't see because Zoom sucks. So I spent all of Saturday like taping up my apartment to get ready for taping. I'm ready for painting. And then Sunday and Monday was mostly painting. We had all the windows open, but my brother had a headache. I felt a little dizzy. We were basically painting every room simultaneously. And we had like I said, the windows open, there was a fan on for the bathroom. But I was like, how bad is this? Because I've never painted my apartment. I've never been into an apartment like freshly painted. New York City, they barely do anything. I was like, how bad is what we're doing? And I love street art and I follow a lot of street artists. And of course, when they show videos of them painting, they have that big paint mask. You know what I mean? Because they're with spray paint and all that stuff. So I know it's bad, but I was like, how bad is what we're doing right now? So I said, what are the side effects of paint fumes? Short term, irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat, headache, feeling dizzy or lightheaded, and nausea. So I think we had like minor, like I said, my brother had a headache. I felt a little dizzy. And then it says it recommends 72 hours of ventilation. Did not do that at all. It was also like, don't put your furniture in there for a while. Like you need to give it space. Nope. Like painted, maybe 2 hours, put my furniture in there. And then it's a certain type of paint. I don't know what it was, but it basically was like it can emit fumes for up to a week. Like it's 72 hours is the worst, up to a week. But depending on how bad the paint is, it could be for years. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like I might never open my windows again. That's not true. But like it's about to be winter. You know what I mean? Like it might, if it was summer or spring, maybe my windows would be up for days during the day when I'm home. But like I was like, what? So like we had all the windows open all day, and then we shut them like basically before bed. So that felt like a good, like maybe 6 to 8 hours of air. Then the next day opened all the windows again, painted. But like I haven't opened my windows since we stopped painting. And we all slept in these rooms. I literally looked at my brother. I was like, "Can I tell you what I Googled today?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna die." And we're not. Like it, but it isn't great. And it just kind of made me think, like, if this was a house and I wasn't in the city, maybe I would have kept my windows open at night or something, but I'm not doing that here.
Well, I told you about the Bob Ross documentary and how his son thinks that that's what killed him, was just the constant paint fumes.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
refused to wear a mask. Yeah. Masks. They save lives.
Yeah, bro. So yeah. So
yeah.
I
Well,
assume,
open the windows
oh well.
now.
We're doing a podcast.
You're not even in some of the rooms.
Yeah, and this one has some space to it, but yeah. Yeah.
I like your background, by the way. I haven't said anything.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous.
So,
The open brick is like unbelievable. I'm like so jealous of it. I love it.
I'm so excited for you to be here. I'm starting to put up my art. It was really cool. So my Pee-wee, I think some of the episodes, if you watch on YouTube, there's this Pee-wee art from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and she put it over the fuse box. So like it's just, if I need to go in the fuse box, I just pick it up. But she covered up the fuse box with this painting, and I was like, I love that Pee-wee's protecting my fuse box. Like so many little details. We've only done a little bit of the hanging stuff, but I'm really happy.
That's
And
awesome.
you can't see, but my dope couch that I got last week. This couch is a part of my personality. So I literally someone.
I think you need to watch out with doing stuff like that.
What?
Because making things a part of your personality.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna be like, it's coucher day. It's just gonna be pictures of your couch.
It's coucher day. Just every Wednesday, I'm like, it's coucher day. Is that a thing? It is when you own a cool couch.
It's just different people on your couch. Actually, that would be kind of fun.
No, first of all, it would not just be my couch, but I would do what I do with Catter Day, which is if I see a couch on the side of the road, I just take a picture of that couch. And if you think about it, remember when we were in LA and there was that whole setup of like a couch, a lamp or whatever, and we did like a photo shoot on it?
Yeah, now that I think about it, it was probably somebody unhomed. It was probably somebody unhoused. It's probably their like space. And we were like, do. Oh my God, get on the TV.
Yeah, I stood on a TV. I'm like lounging on a couch. Yeah, so coucher day is now a thing. What do you Google, Maria?
So I Googled if face-to-face learning or like in-person learning was better than online learning, or like why it was better. Like, I was just like, why can't I just do all my learning online? And so I had to cut through a lot of faff about what the bonuses of online learning are. It's like, we all know you don't have to leave. You can just sit in your underwear and learn.
You don't have to wear pants.
Yeah. Face-to-face learning wins out in the end. This is one article. In the classroom, a teacher's value extends beyond the class being delivered. To get the best out of their students, a teacher's role is to motivate, encourage, and supervise, the latter being particularly difficult to do through video conference software. Interactivity, personalization, and effective communication are key ingredients for successful learning. You can't beat the classroom as an environment for providing valuable feedback. Research has identified two-way dialogue as one of the most effective ways of communicating. That's us. And it is particularly important in education. This is learning with plenty of back and forths. Education built on questions and answers, easiest achieved when in the same room. In a classroom, it has the potential even to go beyond teacher-pupil dialogue with student-to-student and group learning interactions, which I kind of like when I was sitting in my class and like, I mean, it was an information-heavy class, but I just kind of like I wanted to be interacted with a bit more because I just felt like being challenged. Like if you were to ask me a question, I'd be like, oh, would have helped me learn more.
Also,
I don't know.
Don't you feel a little bit, and like, isn't this the reason half the people like will get work done in a coffee shop or go to like a WeWork or something, is that getting out of your personal space and comfort zone forces you to be like, this is work time. So there is something about being in your bedroom or being in your house that you're like, this isn't work time. This is watch Netflix time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's harder to focus. You might be like, oh, I need to that thing is crooked. I need to fix it. Like, you know what I mean? Like there is a little bit, like I've always worked from home, except for like, I guess when I'm in hotels, but like the average person, also including myself, because I do sometimes go to coffee shops when I'm like really like, Liz, you need to work. And I'm like, just get out of the house. But there is something about this like the same way that they tell you not to work in your bedroom because your bedroom is your relaxed space and your workspace should be your workspace and you need to separate them. There is something about physically going somewhere to work or learn.
I wonder if people find that like they get more work done in an office than at home. There was actually a really funny, I think it was in the New Yorker, called like "Help, I Work from Home." It was before lockdown, before everybody was working from home. This person makes a 911 phone call about how he's working from home. Like he was unshowered and he'd masturbated like 10 times. And I'm not doing it any
That's actually, it's
justice.
funny. This is a joke from his name is Roger. Fuck, I can't remember his last name. It was Roger something. And he was a comic I started with. And he had the funniest, simplest joke about working from home. This is like literally a 12-year-old joke. And he was just like, I started working from home recently. And he's like, and I've learned that I have a very laxed masturbation policy.
It's really funny.
I remembered it forever because I just wasn't expecting what he was going to say. And that's exactly what I thought of when the pandemic happened. And then people like fucking were doing it on Zoom and whatnot. So
Yeah. It's by Colin Nissan. I Work from Home. It's in the New Yorker. It's funny.
go check it out, guys. Yeah, I guess I'll just say this. Like, I have friends that their kids have learned, like there are parents that are like, actually my kid has excelled this way. And it's actually been very helpful to not have so much attention or like be safe in their own space, and being safe has helped them learn. And then the opposite, where the social aspect of school is what helped people learn and feel good and feel motivated. So it really just shows you that there's people that excel in this typical school or work environment. And then there's people that don't. And the people that don't, this is their heyday.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like as somebody that's like dyslexic, whenever something becomes like more my style of learning, I'm like, this is my time, but my time it's always short and atypical.
I find that if I'm sitting in the front of the class, I'll learn more because I feel I like somewhere subconsciously, I must feel like I'm taking on a leadership role by being in the front of the class. Same with yoga classes.
Yeah.
And then I try harder. An
example.
Everyone's looking at me. I'm setting an example. I try harder and I'm like, I'm the number one pupil here. So I need to know what's going on. Then I can pass it to you peons in the back. Right. When I'm sitting in the back, I'm just not listening. And then, so I think if I'm on the internet, I haven't really taken a course online. But I can imagine I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Somebody was a school teacher in Ohio and they said that the pupils didn't even have to have their camera on. Like by law, they weren't required to have their camera on. So she was like, half the time I'd be like speaking to like 10 black boxes. No idea if anyone's sitting there or not.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's fucking doing comedy shows. I'll tell you that much. You're just like, is anybody there? Anyway, are you laughing?
That I don't care about. I'll just watch myself tell a joke. I don't care.
Let's get personal.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What's the most interesting thing you see out of your bedroom window?
Yeah.
You go first. I want to know. This might be either the most interesting question or the most boring question.
I know. It's just
you're like, I saw a bird once.
It kind of is that. So like there's a fox that comes around 8 a.m. every day.
That's, first of all, that's what I love about fucking London. And then you just realize why fucking Roald Dahl wrote all these books about foxes. You're like, oh, I didn't know they were the deer of the UK.
Yeah, they're fucking everywhere.
I was at a pub
and go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember waiting for a bus and I was walking towards the bus stop and there was a fox there. And I was like, that's so cool, but I'm going to miss that bus. Like, I'm not going to that bus stop.
Yeah. They're like, I was at a pub. There's foxes everywhere by this pub. I always see foxes, but I think I know why, because the cook comes out with raw chicken. You are not supposed to feed foxes because then they start associating humans with food or humans as food. And so like, he's like feeding this like raw chicken to this fox and he's asking he's like trying to get the fox to sit. And I'm like, it's domesticated.
Dude,
and the fox is just sitting there going, like, just, are you gonna give me this or not?
Yeah.
I think you can domesticate foxes. I don't think it takes very long, but I don't think you're supposed to. And I just think it's
so yeah, keep in mind, like, so there's rules for both, like both cats and dogs. There's rules that if you're going to have it as a pet, it has to be 7 generations domesticated, at least for cats. I know maybe it's different for dogs, but because otherwise you have a wild animal in your home and then someday they're going to be like, I'm not playing these games, and like, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
So there are people that do have foxes and other kind of animals, but that's why you also read stories about bears scratching people's faces off or whatever the fuck they do. So like I would, I wouldn't be against having a little outdoor fox friend that I feed once a day, but no fox is going to live in they're the cutest things ever. I would love to have a domesticated fox in my house, but it, the rules, at least in the US, is that I think it has to be like 7 generations domesticated. So
Bengal
Bengal
cats are
cat.
becoming a thing too.
Yeah, well, it
Or
used to
have
be
they
like,
been a thing?
I think the last couple of years, I guess they've become more accessible. And like there, like I said, there's these laws. So there's a couple of new cats that are now 7 generations domesticated. So, and then of course they're expensive, I think. But yeah, I know people that have them and it's cool, but also no thank you.
Yeah. Well, I watch them because I watch the trees too. I like the trees. They make a swishy noise. And so the fox comes over one side of the fence, and then he goes off to the side into my, and he's made a dent in the wooden fence where his like little toes scrape. It's like like, and it's just slowly gone down. And it's just like he fucked up the fence. She, I don't know. But I like watching him do the same thing every day. And then I realized I do the same thing every day.
Yeah, yeah. Crap, there was like again like some comic strip or whatever, and it was just like, oh my god, this cat just sits in a box all day and does nothing, and then it pans out and it's just these 2 humans sitting in an apartment doing nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like like we just sit in a box all day and do nothing.
Yeah.
Um
Who's watching us on YouTube right now going, fuck.
yeah, damn it. This is such a you question because your view is so important to you. Like whenever you talk about an apartment or a hotel room or where you
It's
were,
everything.
like I was at this restaurant, you look out the window, someone's juggling, it was beautiful. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just like ambiance is so important to you. And I think, don't get me wrong, I love trees, I love nature, I love when things are pretty, I can notice them, but the same thing with food. I like good food, but I don't care. I like pretty
I like
views.
good food, but I don't care. Sorry.
But do you know what I mean? Like there's things that like when it's nice, I enjoy them, but it doesn't change my experience. And your experience, this is a part of your experience and this is a part of you enjoying it.
I think, yeah, I'm like heavily into aesthetics. Like if like how I feel in a room is everything. So that's why I'm the type of person, and I'm a nightmare. I know this. This is not a brag, but I will go into a restaurant and sit down if it's an empty restaurant, and then I'll be like, I don't like my view. I don't like people walking behind me. And then I'll move to another table until I feel settled in.
Yeah, as somebody that's been to 3 tables in a restaurant, I literally just go around apologizing behind your back. I was just like, she's crazy. I'm so sorry.
My friend Riley and I wrote a whole sketch about it, about going from different, like not quite into the booth here, and then going to a different restaurant.
I remember when I first became friends with Prakash, he would never sit his back to the door. And it was so annoying sometimes. And then he explained to me, he's like, oh, you should always see the door because that's how you like escape or if anybody attacks you. And I'm like,
yeah, if you're Tony Soprano.
Like, yeah, I was also like, he's my friend from Singapore. And I'm like, and he has that English accent that I'm just like, why do you have an English accent? But like, I literally was just like, did you murder like, you know what I mean? Like I met you in college, but are you a murderer? Like, why is
no,
that
a lot of people are like that. I've heard that from a lot of people. They don't want to sit with, my first boyfriend was like that. He didn't want to sit with his back to the door, or like, and then I never thought about it. And then somebody brings their quirk to me and I just take on their quirk. So now I'm like, oh, my back to the door. I hate that. I already have enough quirks,
Yeah, exactly. I can't be that person. My new place, my bedroom, it's actually pretty cool because I've always had a forward facing room, meaning that it's always been by a highway or a busy street or whatever. Like there's so many goddamn sirens because this is the front. The back of my apartment is where my bedroom is. And it's actually one of the reasons I wanted this apartment. It overlooks a garden. Oh. So it's not only beautiful, but like I ran into my neighbor the first week I was here and I saw her, she's in the ground apartment. I was like, hey, do you live there? And she was like, yeah. I was like, I love your garden. I was like,
okay, wait. When you're saying garden, do you mean US garden with like flowers and vegetables, or do you mean UK garden where they mean yard?
US.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's vegetables and flower. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I see her attend to it like every day. It's so beautiful that it was the first night. It was a couple months ago. I went to sleep and I was like, "Are those crickets?" And like chirping, like it was like the sounds of It was like nature. I went to bed to nature. Like people in the city put that on their phone and sleep to noise machines that sound like crickets. And I have,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's
That's
absolutely
awesome.
beautiful. So I like looking out my window. I love like, cause like my old apartment, because I did everything in my room, because we didn't really have a living room. Um, I did everything in my bedroom. So the first thing I would do when I wake up is I would open my windows, but it's just a highway.
Oh,
So,
the worst you okay.
and I
Look,
will, and I'll say what I liked about my highway in a second, but
okay.
it is fascinating to me that I have not had nature, and I grew up on the side of a highway. So like our first apartment when I was a little kid was on the side of Route 1, and then we moved right off the highway of Route 1 and lived there until I think I was like 13. So most of my life I've lived in like apartments or tiny houses on a highway. So like when I moved to New York City, it just didn't bother me that much. But now to just be a little bit away from the busy street, it's mind blowing.
Well, I hate to
Game
break
changer.
it to you, Muffin. This is just a sign of aging.
Is it?
Is appreciating aesthetics like that. You're gonna
I'm
have wind
aging.
chimes in a minute.
I do. I am
Yeah.
getting like a little hippy dippy. I think the city will stop me from going full hippy dippy because you can't really be full hippy dippy in a city. But yeah.
How old is your
And then,
neighbor?
huh?
How old is your neighbor?
This is crazy because my old apartment, it was like geriatric. Like everybody was like truly like a 90-year-old Hungarian woman.
Yeah.
And I was just like helping. My stereotype of my apartment is there's always a Mexican woman helping a 90-year-old Hungarian woman up the steps with her groceries. But like that was my life for 6 years, is they were so old in my apartment. And then we had two like young families move in, and they moved out during the pandemic. And I was like, we're just starting to get some 40-year-olds here. Like this is insane. Um, so it was us and then all these old people. This apartment is I met my neighbor, this girl Kara. She has a dog. She has like a geriatric dog, so she has to bring this giant dog down in a bag. It's very cute.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like a little sad, but it's like very cute. So I met her and her sister, this other guy. Everybody's like probably in their like 30s, 40s. Like it's nice, and it's a small
oh, good.
apartment building.
Oh, that's
Yeah, and
awesome.
I've met my neighbors.
Yeah,
Like I've met them.
that's unheard of in
Yeah,
New York.
I know. I know
I
their
rem-
names.
I remember there was a blackout on my friend Lisa's street when I was in LA and I was staying at her place, and she was out and I was at her place, but like everyone came out into the hallways and then into the street. And I was just like getting to know her neighbors. I'm like, I don't live here, but my friend Lisa does, and she's great.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
it's just such a bonding experience. Um,
But my old apartment, while it was pure chaos, because I was on a highway, but it was like I saw fireworks. Like we had a debaucherous, insane New Year's Eve where my entire neighborhood bought illegal fireworks and we're setting them off on the sidewalk. I would say not even a quarter of a block from me. So you could see it from our windows. Like me and Chris had apart like rooms almost next to each other. So you could see it from each of our windows. Then we went outside, we were standing in front of our apartment, and it was our entire apartment building, and we're all watching it. We walked a little closer to it, but it was like insanity. And then also just like, I don't know, there's like, I wrote down some of the stuff, just like people speeding, kids being crazy, just fights. I remember once, I go to bed pretty late, but there was these two guys just talking loudly outside my window in some language I don't know. And I was just like, I literally like, just like old school Italian woman. I was like, hey guys, it's almost midnight. And they're like, oh, so sorry, sorry. And then they moved like 2 feet away and I could still hear them. But it was just like,
yeah, that's happened here. Yeah.
yeah, it's just, but there is something about, and I still have, there's chaos this way, but like you kind of like the chaos. Like it's something to look. I remember, this is crazy. Early in the pandemic, Chris was walking to go to the grocery store, and he comes back and he's like, there is a full car that is completely burned out to a shell, just parallel parked. And I was like, shut up. So then me and John go, not even a half a block away. I'm not telling you, it looked like it was a prop from a movie. There was no roof. The whole inside was burned out, and it was parallel parked. Like it was like it parked and it was going to go to the grocery store. It was insane. And it was there for like a week. And I kept looking in the news to find out what happened. And it clearly happened in that parking spot because the car in front of it had burn residue and burn marks in front of it. So like, it was just insane. And that was like a half a block away. And I was like, there's no newspaper article about how someone clearly found out their boyfriend was cheating and set his car on fire.
This is the news I want.
Yeah, I want the fucking gossip in my neighborhood. All right, we
Yeah.
should move on. Topic?
Yep.
Our topic this week is music therapy. You picked this topic, right? Or did we come up with it together?
I mean, I did, but I don't know why I did, because I don't know anything about it, and I still don't.
What I found interesting, because I found out there's a bunch of different types. So like if I went with just like first thought with what music therapy is, I was like, it's for young autistic kids, and it's like help with behavioral issues. That was like my guttural thing belief is that it's for autistic kids and it's for behavioral issues. They basically also call it sound healing therapy, and it uses aspects of music to improve physical and emotional health and well-being. And it can involve like listening to music, singing along to music, moving to the beat, meditating, and playing an instrument.
I just want to see why it would work with that. Motivation and self-esteem. So it can increase motivation and self-esteem, reduce muscle tension, decrease anxiety, improve self-awareness, and strengthen coping skills.
My list that I found just made me laugh, because it's like used to treat anxiety disorder, depression, PTSD, dementia, autism, learning difficulties, behavioral and psychiatric disorders, and cancer. And I was like, what?
Does it like physically make cancer recede, or is it just people with cancer, it helps them cope with?
I think it's coping. And that's what I've learned from all the research I did, is that it's a lot of like helping minimize the symptoms. I don't think it heals anything. I think it makes symptoms more manageable and maybe less pronounced or whatever. But it just made me kind of laugh, where it was like mental, get rid of your cancer. Like, and I was like, okay, internet.
Physically, it can like affect the body by changing your heart rate and lowering blood pressure, improved motor development or processing, improved sleep. It can physically stimulate conscious or unconscious body movements, such as toe tapping and large body movements, and improved gait, walking, and speech. But the thing is like it made it sound like it can promote unconscious body movements. That sounds so much worse than toe tapping. Just like suddenly you find yourself toe tapping, they're like, aha, we did that.
Yeah, well, no, what it made me think of was like, are you just talking about dancing? Like,
yeah.
just like
yeah, but
like
it
what
was
a way
against
to
my
break
will.
down what dancing is. It's just unconscious body movement, and you just see somebody that's like, man, like,
reduced
like,
asthma episodes. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Reduced pain, help premature infants with weight gain and sleep. I don't know how. Help people with Parkinson's disease improve their motor functions. Oh my God, I can't speak. And distraction from pain, which might be the cancer thing as well.
Yeah, that's true. I think what blew my mind was all the different types. So I'll go over all of them, but there was guided meditation, which just makes sense. Like I didn't even know that was a part of music therapy, but it basically says meditate to voice instruction, can involve chanting or repeated mantra prayer. But they basically said it could be somebody guiding you, it could be an app, it could be whatever. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was in the box of music therapy. Then there's the neurologic music therapy. They said it could be more, like there's belief that it could be more effective than prescription drugs to reduce anxiety levels post-surgery. And it's basically creating, listening, singing, or moving to music. And it's used for physical rehab, pain management, and brain injuries. Then there's the Bonnie method of guided imagery and music, GIM. And that's classical music and imagery to help explore personal growth, consciousness, and transformation. All these things I like heard of, but didn't know they had a specific name / somebody. You always forget, like, somebody invented this. Somebody came up with this. Her name was Bonnie. Nordoff Robbins, delivered by a skilled musician who complete a 2-year master's program. And they basically create new music together and work towards a performance. And it's used to treat children with developmental delays, mental health issues, learning difficulties, autism, and dementia. That's weirdly something I knew about, but I didn't realize that it's like somebody took a master's program and like this is what they do, is they help people with developmental issues by using music. Which, whenever I think about therapy for children, or children that gone through trauma and go to a therapist or whatever, or problematic children, whatever the fuck that means, whatever. That's where learning music therapy goes in my mind, which is somebody that uses drawing or music or some kind of creativity to bring out stuff in children that normally wouldn't, because they're not as cognizant, or they don't fully understand exactly what's going on or how they're affected by stuff the way maybe an adult would. So I think in general, I knew about the Nordorf Robbins, but I didn't know it was like a 2-year master's program. Like I think it's pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
you're already a musician and then you have this skill to kind of help children. I've heard of this too. Tuning fork therapy. Used calibrated mental tuning forks to apply specific vibrations to different parts of the body. So it helps release tension, energy, promote emotional balance. Supposedly works similarly to acupuncture, using the sound frequencies for point stimulation instead of needles, which is like, whoa, crazy. And that can release muscle and bone pain. And then the last one was brainwave entertainment, also known as binaural beats. Binaural beats. I can't say that. BINAURAL beats. Stimulates the brain into a specific state using pulsing sound to encourage your brain waves to align to the frequency of the beat, supposedly to help induce enhanced focus, entranced state, relaxation, and sleep. And it's supposed to like reduce anxiety and stuff and improve behavioral problems in children. But like the brainwave entertainment one, like, doesn't it sound like hypnotism?
Maybe it is a bit.
Maybe, especially when you think about
you
like
were like, what?
I was like, like, because I think of like when you think of stereotypical hypnotism, not that I know too much about it, but like typical hypnotism, you know, it's like a ting and like, and like a soothing voice, and like, so just like, to me that sounded like clearly hypnotism uses some brainwave entertainment as a form of like entrancing people and calming them and controlling their minds.
I don't know if this is connected at all, but Squid Game, they have classical music. I think it's being played to them like while they're playing the game, or like while they're sleeping. Or look, I've only seen like I've seen 3 episodes. I should know this, but there's use of classical music in it's. I can't watch more than 1 episode at a time.
It's stressful.
It is a very stressful show. There are countries who use classical music as a form of crowd control. Like, sometimes they use classical music in tube stations or public spaces or malls to deter antisocial behavior. And I thought that was really interesting. And so maybe like Squid Games was using it in that sort of way of crowd control. But it's been frequently, so classical music has frequently been celebrated as pinnacle of human achievement. It's said to have the capacity to enlighten, to move, and as proponents of the Mozart effect suggest, improve listeners' mental capacity. However, over the past 30 years in the UK, Canada, and the United States, classical music has come to function not just as an art or entertainment, but as a sonic weapon. It's used as a means of dispelling and deterring loiterers by making particular public and privately owned public spaces, such as shopping malls, bus stations, shop fronts, and car parks, undesirable to occupy. They said that where there was classical music being played, there were less reports of crime and shit like that. But on one hand, it can soothe you, which is a positive effect. But on the other hand, it can deter you because it's annoying you, which is like a negative thing.
Also, I've read before that like playing classical music while kids are taking tests can make them do better or focus more or something like that. Like that's definitely like a weird fact I've read.
I just thought it was an interesting use of music as a form of crowd control.
This is going to sound so dumb, but like every time I watch a movie and something suspenseful is going to happen, it's always like creepy classical music. So there's a part of me that's just like, classical music always sounds like someone's about to get murdered to me.
That's funny you say that, because I have a tweet in my drafts folder about how I'm like, I can't hear classical music without thinking of an 80s like farcical sitcom, or a Tom and Jerry chase. So it's also used in cartoons.
There was this song I got into. This band is a little sexual. They're called Wet Leg. And then the song my sister got me into is called Wet Dream. And then the song my brother introduced me to, not knowing that my sister already or vice versa, my brother introduced me, but it's called Shay's Lounge. All of they're like very whimsical jokes or music about sex. The music they're playing, the physical music, it's like the music we buy. You know how you can just buy music and put it on the internet and you won't get fined or whatever? What is that called? Royalty free music.
Yeah.
Their actual music, I'm like, this is like a royalty free thing that I've definitely used before. It's super weird. And so like the lyrics and song I love, and they're really silly and weird and whimsical. But every time I listen to it, I'm like, I know I use this song in something. Like, it
Yeah.
sounds
This
like
sounds like
royalty
the
free.
This sounds like the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme music. Their next album's going to be like, welcome to Tune on Doctor.
But yeah, exactly. So it's, I don't know. It's also, I wonder if our, like, I know there's all this stuff about classical music or whatever, but like also movies and what you take in trains your brain. So like I've always been very fascinated with the music I listened to as a kid. It is always traced to what I'm doing. So I used to actually listen to music while I read. And when I hear those songs, I'll remember the book I was reading at the time, or I'll
Yeah.
remember how I felt about something. It's also interesting that we clearly have very strong auditory memories, and those things are linked somehow as well. And then the other thing I was going to say is that a song can get ruined by a movie. So there was that I don't watch a lot of scary movies because I can't handle it, but what's the Silence of the Lambs I watched, and that Tom Petty song when they like abduct the girl from the back of the and put her in the van.
Is
Do
that
you know that
the
scene?
Don't Come Around Here No More? Was it
Yes.
that song? I love that
No,
song.
maybe it's not
No.
American Girl.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's American Girl. It's just got uplifting, da 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 da. But they put it over this girl being abducted in Silence of the Lambs, and I cannot listen to it anymore without getting stressed the fuck out, and it like ruined that song for me.
Yeah. So I guess that would be the opposite of what like of music therapy, but
But I'm also wondering that if you played music for a kid when they were younger, like let's say you like my parents listened to so much Simon and Garfunkel and Paul Simon that to hear a Paul Simon song as an adult is like makes me think of road trips. It makes me think of like when my parents were kind of happy and nice. So it's also like I wonder where music gets retrained in your experiences and then they have a different effect on you. You know what I mean? That like
I
you
had
could
a
have
nightmare when I was younger with that I'm Never Gonna Dance Again song. Ugh. I can't listen to this day. I can't listen to that song.
it's so weird.
Ugh. Even saxophones. But I just real quick, I just wanted to say about this, about using music to like deter antisocial behavior. I kind of wonder if it works because you know when you do a show in a theater, people kind of take on this like, oh, that's very good, very
Yeah,
funny, young lady. You know, and
yeah,
it's just
they're
like
less exuberant.
just because it's in a theater doesn't mean you have to be proper, you know, it's
Yeah,
still a comedy show. And I
yeah.
just think that I wonder if like that's what just people just do subconsciously. They hear they hear classical music and they just feel like they need to act as if like if is it physically calming you down, or do you subconsciously go, oh, time to act proper now, there's classical music playing.
Oh, that's interesting. Also, wasn't like in during like when a lot of classical music was made, wasn't that like there's certain stuff that we would never consider like rambunctious or like off color or whatever, and now we're like, oh, this is like quaint classical music, and they're like, that's the devil's music. Like
Yeah.
but I guess I just wonder with this, like, yeah, they talk a lot about classical, but I wonder if a kid has a positive connection to Lady Gaga, if it has the same effect. You know what I mean? If this kid has
Mhm.
some really likes Lady Gaga and has a positive effect, is that helping with their behavioral issues, even if it isn't classical, because they have a positive and connecting, whatever to Lady Gaga. That's like where I have like unanswered questions, because I think there's so many studies about classical music and like you said, the crowd control and stuff like that. But like, you know, if this little kid is making a performance for that, like, what was it? The Nordorf Robbins thing. Like, let's say this girl's making punk music with this guy and just screaming. Is that as effective than her playing the cello?
Right.
If it has the same effect, it has the same effect. I just don't know. I would hope that like you don't have to do boring music. No offense to anybody that likes classical, but
I
you don't
love
have to do
classical.
boring. I feel nothing.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I would like to hear if anybody has used music therapy, if it's something that they have been a part of themselves or something that their kids took a part of. I also think there's like probably some like rich kid schools that's part of the program. You know what I mean? Like private schools or something. I bet you they instill some of that. That sounds like a school with a budget would fucking do that shit. We barely had an arts
You need a
department,
budget
so.
to put a boombox in a room and play some classical.
They're trained professionals.
There's no money for these CDs. Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to hear from anybody that has been a part of music therapy or like their kids were a part of music therapy. That'd be cool if somebody like that listens had like post-surgery, like classical music therapy. Like that'd be kind of dope to hear about.
Or did the pitchfork therapy help? Like, has anybody done like actual
also don't certain hospitals
sound bowls
play music? I don't know. Anyway,
this is why we're asking.
You know us, we don't know anything. You can write to us at twonondoctors@gmail.com. What is that, Maria?
That's 2 non-full-word doctors@gmail.com, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.